Food should bring a sense of safety, comfort, joy, connection, and nourishment. But unfortunately, when we are managing food allergies or chronic health issues, often the joy of food becomes tangled with fear, anxiety, and restrictions. Lauren Lust, creator of Less with Laur and former mental health professional, is joining me today to explore the impact of food allergies, intolerances, and chronic illness. Lauren shares her personal journey from the mental health field into creating a space that celebrates mindful, inclusive, healthy, and joyful eating. We talk about the connection between food and identity, how to heal from the social and emotional toll of food restriction, and why reclaiming pleasure and creativity in food can be an act of self-compassion. Welcome to the Don't Feed the Fear podcast, where we dive into the complex world of food allergy anxiety. I'm your host, Dr. Amanda Whitehouse, food allergy anxiety psychologist and food allergy mom. Whether you're dealing with allergies yourself or supporting someone who is, join us for an empathetic and informative journey toward food allergy calm and confidence. Lauren, I'm so glad you're here today. Can you give us a background and tell us how you ended up doing what you're doing today?
Yeah, so I was diagnosed with food allergies when I was 25 years old. I also have dealt with chronic symptoms over the years that have gotten worse over time to the point of finally being able to be diagnosed in my 20s. So my story's so long, but I wanted to go to PA school, and I just after college was not feeling well, could not function to do a 9 to 5 or to do the classes I needed to do. So I ended up kind of pivoting and getting a master's in social work. And then I also started sharing my recipes on Instagram. At some point in that journey, I was working a very high stress job out of my master's degree, which is what most of us have to do. And I think that, along with the health issues, along with I was doing a yoga teacher training, and I didn't know what was going on with my body because I kept going to the doctor, and they would be like, nothing's wrong, nothing's wrong, nothing's wrong. And so I just thought I was more tired. I was thought my joint pain was from doing gymnastics my whole life. So I kept kind of just going along, and I definitely was pushing myself too much until it got to the point where I was like, something's wrong. I need to figure out what it is. So that's when I left the field and started working in real estate for a little bit, just purely so I could go to my doctor's appointments because I could not get time off. So that's kind of why I took a step back from the field in the first place. And then I went back during COVID when I couldn't really do the real estate stuff in person. I got my real estate license during COVID, and then I also started doing virtual therapy part-time. And so because I had been diagnosed with food allergies and started to figure out my chronic illness stuff, that eventually ended up being kind of my specialty and population that I was working with, since I had kind of gone through some of that stuff in the last couple of years too and was knowledgeable about it. And then it got to a point where I think it was the end of 2024 where I was doing all three things. My Instagram page and blog had grown. I was working in real estate, and then I was doing therapy, and I was like, all right, I can't do this all. And then my full-time job of taking care of my health issues. So I was like, something has to give. So I was excited about my business and all the people I was reaching. It's obviously a very different way. I'm reaching more people than I could with therapy in a very different way. But, getting people being like, wow, my child with 10 food allergies is able to eat your, recipe for Thanksgiving. So things like that. And I really like to cook, and it's been a really cool creative outlet for me, which I feel that part of me wasn't able to, I didn't have anything to apply it to for a long time. So it's just something that I really like doing.
So many twists and turns, some of which I still didn't even know about having prepared for our chat. So there's a lot to unpack, but I want to back it up if you don't mind. You were having the symptoms when you were younger, but didn't get the diagnosis until you were an adult. So given that you have the mental health understanding, I'd love for you to talk about your experience and how that affects us when we are having symptoms that are not diagnosed. We have to do our own research, fight for our own medical care. Would you share what that was like for you?
Yeah, I think it's hard too because my symptoms slowly developed over time. So it was kind of something might be a little bit off. You have some joint pain, maybe it's growing pains. You have some fatigue. You can't really get to your sports after school. Maybe it's growing pains. As I went through my life, I started more and more feeling like, okay, this is not normal. Like, I noticed how much I had to sleep in college versus my friends, like things like that. It was definitely frustrating that like doctors couldn't find anything wrong, because I feel like I just was like, I think it's hard too because I've always been like very type A and like was able to keep my head above water kind of. So it wasn't like my grades were suffering. It wasn't like, which like looking back now, I'm like, well, I could have done better if I didn't have this stuff going on. But there wasn't anything like very obvious. Obviously, I noticed it in my day to day functioning, but I think because I was still able to function until I wasn't, that they just didn't, they couldn't figure it out. Our medical system is not set up to like diagnose these complex chronic conditions either, which is like a whole other thing. But it was very frustrating to not know what was going on. And it's scary because like when they start trying to test you for things, they're like, okay, well, like this thing came up, you might have leukemia. And then they want to do a bone marrow biopsy and like all this, like, you know, they rule out the most scary things first. So you're like, do I have cancer? So that is also hard. And like, I think a lot of people with my conditions have gone through that journey of like, we're not sure, something's off in your blood now. Like, let's make sure you don't have cancer and do all these scary tests. So yeah, it's like, it's tough, and it's hard to find providers that like really can sit down and take the time to listen. And unfortunately, a lot of those providers are out of pocket and out of network.
Yeah, a lot of barriers there
There's a
too.
lot of barriers to being properly diagnosed and to being able to even like improve your symptoms with these conditions, because most of the things that I do are like out of pocket. I mean, there are a lot of things you can do for free that can help your health, but I think like even getting this information, there's like a cost barrier, which is
Absolutely.
also why I like to share my health journey. Like, obviously, I'm not a doctor. I can't make any recommendations, but I can kind of share, like, okay, I do Pilates. It really works for me. Like, maybe you can ask your doctor if that would work for you. Stuff like that.
Right. Had you already kind of narrowed this down and figured out what was going on by the time you actually got a diagnosis, or was it a big change once it became more official and you got some answers?
Yeah, so it was actually my dermatologist that was like putting together a list of my symptoms. He's like a family friend, so he was like, and that's the other problem, is like there's such a barrier to care that it like really takes somebody who knows you and cares. Like I had some weird symptoms that were kind of dermatology related, or like, and like weird sweating on one side and stuff with my skin, but it was mostly like nervous system, like neurological type symptoms. My GI symptoms were like the worst. I had GI symptoms for like 7 years, like horrible. And so he put together a whole list of symptoms, and that's how I got sent to Mayo. And so then when I got there, I saw the GI and they diagnosed me, or they told me they thought I had a connective tissue disorder, but I had to come back. They wanted me to come back in like 7 months or something. So I found somebody here, so I didn't have to travel, but that took a year. So finally I got diagnosed, and then I was diagnosed with like other conditions that kind of go along with the connective tissue disorder. And then it wasn't until I like really found integrative medicine that I was able to start actually making improvements. So it definitely was like a whole journey.
What changes did you make that were really helpful?
I think honestly, it was a lot of like lifestyle changes. It's a lot of like, I have a lot of like nutrient deficiencies and like malabsorption issues. And so, like, supplementing those things, being able to exercise in the right way for my body. Cause like I'm hypermobile. So I was like hyperextending all the time, doing like really hard workouts that weren't good for my joints, and just like pushing my body to like past its limits, just because I didn't know that it wasn't good for me. So definitely changing the way I exercise, like working on circadian rhythm, and just like a lot of it's lifestyle changes. I was having a lot of blood sugar issues. I think I got into a bad pattern of like not eating in the morning because my stomach hurt so bad, and then like I was totally screwing with my blood sugar. So being able to like know that that was playing a part in my symptoms, and trying to make sure I'm eating all the nutrients I need and having balanced meals. What else? A lot of like nervous system work. A lot of it is like a lot of it's been supplements too, just like things that are helping to stabilize my mast cells, and then changing my diet and removing the things that I have actual IgE allergies to, but also I've done like elimination diets and things for short periods of time that have helped me. What else? A lot of things. There's a lot of things. And I'm very open to trying many different things, like that, anything that's not like, you know, harmful or could potentially have side effects. I mean, anything can have side effects, but like, you know, for the most part, if it seems safe and effective, I'll try it.
As a therapist, and I'm sure you can have seen this in your clients too, when we talk about integrative medicine, and it sounds kind of, I don't know, intimidating to some people, but it's
Yeah.
really, a lot of it is so basic that we should
Right.
all be doing. And the lifestyle, did you see this with your clients all the time? Like, oh, just the way we live our life does not support us being in good health, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Right. It's our whole system that's set up to not be good for our nervous systems, for our health, for our diets, for our, yeah, for literally everything. I mean, like, we're, especially like during the winter, we're like at work during all the hours where there's light, and like that we get no sunshine at all.
Right. Right. Yeah, I love that you mentioned circadian rhythms. I think that's such a part of it. And it's for people who are listening who are, not familiar with these concepts, like there's research. There's research
Yeah.
about
Oh, yeah.
light and how it affects us and our, all aspects related to depression and mood and anxiety
Right.
levels, things like that. But I so love talking about the nervous system piece. That's like one of my things that I harp on all the time. So I would love to know some of the things specifically that you've tried or what you learned about that you thought was helpful.
I've tried almost everything. I think with the chronic health issues, a lot of it has been kind of like mindset work to help my nervous system. I think when you're going through the diagnosis journey, you're like looking and looking and searching for something that's like the answer. And then once you get the answer, it's like, it's helpful, but for my conditions, there's not like necessarily a cure or a treat. Like, there are treatments, but there's not like one thing that's going to help. And I think along the way, I was also told things like, don't lift weights, you're going to hurt yourself, don't do that, you're fragile. And so like you get this, like, you get into this mindset that you're so fragile, you're sick, you're weak, like all these things, because that's what providers are telling you. And I almost had to like undo all of that. And I don't know, that, like, I guess this is what has worked for me, and I know not everyone is going to agree with this, but I've almost like had to distance myself from the labels of these illnesses in order to move towards being healthier, just because I don't think it's helpful to every day be like checking your symptoms, scanning your body. Does my stomach hurt today? Like, and obviously there's a time where my symptoms were very, very present, and I still do have symptoms. Unfortunately, like, I was doing really well, and then I got COVID, and some of my symptoms came back, but that's like, so I'm dealing with that now. But I don't think it's always helpful to have your nervous system to be in high alert. Like, am I feeling okay? Am I doing okay? Like, kind of tuning into like what those questions are that you're asking yourself. It's so hard because like I also can validate being in that situation where you don't know what's going on, and I would spiral and be like, do I need to go to the ER? Am I okay? And sometimes like I should have gone to the ER, like, but I don't know. There's just like such a fine line between trying to calm your nervous system down to know that your body is like capable of healing and taking care of itself, while also like knowing that if something's really wrong, like you should take care of it. So
Yeah.
But yeah, that's been a big part of it, is kind of like moving towards identifying with, I'm healthy, I'm working on getting towards, the healthiest, strongest version of me, instead of like I have all these sicknesses all the time, like thinking about that.
That's really helpful for people to hear. I think it's stages that you move in and out of, right? It is natural to be more focused on something when you don't have answers. And then
Right.
once you become familiar with it and you do know what's going on and you know your own limits or your own symptoms, then it is helpful to move out of it. A lot of people get stuck in
Yeah.
that introspective awareness of what's going on and what do I feel? And is it
Right.
that fuels the anxiety more than it helps? But there are other times when we need that awareness, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It's a tricky balance.
It is. Yeah, it is tricky for sure.
I'm a little bit newer to discovering you because I'm new to social media
Yeah.
just since I started the podcast. But was there like one big moment? Was there a certain recipe or a certain post when things kind of blew up, or was it more gradual over time for you?
It's been pretty gradual over time, which can be frustrating, but also like it's also good because you're really like, I'm really building a community. It's not like I have one video that went viral and I gained a million followers and like people don't really know who I am.
Right.
So I think that's just been good too, to like develop this community and people who trust me and people who come to me for certain things. So yeah, it's just been like a slow grow over time.
You mentioned it's a creative outlet. What else do you like about it?
I mean, it's fun. I like making new recipes. I've met so many people too from social media, like, and I think in the beginning that was also really helpful. Like, was diagnosed with these new conditions, had no idea what was going on, and like, I think I just got lucky that I connected with some people who really have the mindset of like, we're gonna get better, we're gonna like do this. So that was really helpful because it's hard. Like, it's hard because a lot of people can't really put themselves in your position. Most of my friends don't have health issues at this age, so it's like the connection too that it's brought me. I've like learning, like I've learned so much from this. Like I've learned how to take photos, I've learned how to edit them, I've learned how to make videos, I've learned how to edit them, I've learned about blogging and SEO and like the back end of running a business that like most people don't see, but that's like fun for me too, is just like learning about all these different things.
What about your audience? What do they really resonate with, or what do you hear a lot from them?
I think people mostly are looking for like gluten-free and dairy-free recipes. That's what I usually find people are like requesting the most, and just kind of allergy friendly in general. But then there are like definitely a lot of people who follow me who have chronic health issues, whether that's similar to my health issues or whether it's PCOS or endometriosis or whatever it is. And I think a lot of people are told by their doctors or dietitians to experiment with their diet, so they find me. And yeah, there are like such a wide variety of people who follow me that sometimes I get like in my head about like what should I share because I want to cater to everybody.
What are you learning from having such a large audience and doing so much work and focus on it?
I feel like I've learned a lot just like being on social media, honestly, and following like other creators who are cooking gluten-free and dairy-free, other practitioners like who talk about food allergies and chronic illness. There are a lot of doctors, dietitians, nutritionists, like providers, therapists in this space that are talking about chronic illness or food allergies. And so that's always interesting. I feel like I've learned a lot about, at the beginning, I learned a lot about my conditions on social media, honestly. These doctors were like, if you have this, like maybe you can try this. And then I bring it to my providers and I'm like, can I try this? So I think that's helpful too. It's interesting that that's how we have to learn about our conditions sometimes.
It is, but that's just a sign of the world that we live in right now. We get the combination of it from social media. And then hopefully the next step then is, like you said, for people to verify it for themselves. Right. But it's a good starting point to get information from people that can understand each other and relate to what you might not know anyone in your real life who's had those experiences or something.
Yeah. Exactly.
I'm so excited because of the crossover of your experience as a mental health professional, but then obviously with this focus on food and creativity. I think one of the things that gets lost or that people struggle with the most with any kind of food allergy or chronic illness is the loss of what an important piece food and cooking is to our social connection, our joy, our pleasure in life. So I would love for you to talk about that and maybe it sounds like the process of reclaiming that.
Yeah, I think that is one of the hardest things. I'll put up a question box on my story every once in a while that's like, what's the hardest thing that you struggle with around holidays? And a lot of people do say like, you know, not feeling included or whatever it is, that somewhere along those lines of feeling like they are not part of these experiences. And I've definitely felt that too. It is hard. And that's why I share that I eat like a, 80-20, 90-10 diet. For all my chronic health issues, I try to eat mostly wholesome plants, meat, real whole foods. But a lot of what I share too on my page is that like 10 to 20% because it's like I want somebody to be able to bring like a fun Thanksgiving dish or like a dish to their picnic or whatever it is or a dessert so that they feel included and feel like they can take part in things. So yeah, I feel like those are a lot of the recipes that I share is like things that they can bring that are fun so that they feel like they have something fun to eat too. But yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's hard. You have to kind of make your own food or really trust whoever's making it. A lot of it's like advocating for yourself and explaining to friends that like even if you can't eat, you still want to be invited. A lot of it's going places and not eating or eating before. You kind of have to like prioritize the experience over the food too.
Yeah. Well, and the part that you touched on, I love like that 10 to 20%. What I'm asking about is like finding the joy in the food. It doesn't have to be everything all the time. Every meal, every day
Right.
isn't the stuff that we're missing out on, but even just introducing, like you said, a small fraction of that gives us the sense of I got to make a
Yeah.
cute thing of a fun Thanksgiving dish.
Yeah. Definitely. I can take more work and it can be tiring, but usually you can find something that's like similar to what people are eating or an activity that's fun that involves. I mean, there are so many allergy friendly brands now too that there is usually a way that you can be included somehow.
How about specific to the holidays? Because as you mentioned, obviously food becomes even more of an emphasis around the holidays. People are going to be listening to this as
Yeah.
the December end of the year holidays are coming up. What do you find helps people to get through the negative associations and experiences with food and finding the fun and finding the joy in them again, besides great recipes? But what else helps?
Yeah. I think just like trying to focus on things that you are excited for that don't involve food, like whether it's, you're getting a gift for your family member or you're decorating something, decorating your house for the holidays. I think there are a lot of fun things that you can focus on, like matching pajamas. Like there's so many things that don't involve food that can still be fun. And so kind of like focusing on that instead of the food, I think is helpful. And like your relationships with your family or other things that don't necessarily involve food. But also, I do think finding like at least one recipe you're excited about and making it can be helpful too.
Yeah, like you said, it doesn't have to be all of them, but if
Yeah,
a small little percentage of it is those fun, indulgent things.
yeah, for sure.
Are there things specifically that you want people to look for that have been a really big hit that are specific to the winter holidays that people might enjoy?
I'm definitely going to work on a lot of like holiday recipes coming up, but I have a lot of cute little treats that are like reindeer shaped and things like that. There's a lot of treats where you can use an allergy friendly mix and make a cute face on it, and it doesn't have to be a from scratch recipe, and that's helpful too. I think making something cute that's easy can also be fun. I have a guacamole wreath, and it's just basically guacamole and pomegranate seeds, and you're arranging it into a cute wreath shape. I have a charcuterie wreath too, where you can use allergy friendly things. So a lot of like cute things that are like fun to make but also simple and can be swapped out easily for like allergy friendly options.
Yeah, but with a presentation that's fun and makes it feel special and exciting, and you can still spend that time focusing and enjoying what you're creating,
Yeah.
right? Are there projects that you have coming up or any collaborations or things that you're particularly excited about that we should keep an eye peeled for?
I'm definitely working with a lot of fun brands during the holidays. I would love to write a cookbook someday in the future. I would love to one day open a therapy practice. That's kind of probably further down the line and get a master's in nutrition. And I mean, I would love to one day have a product, whether that's a food like a baked good or a allergy friendly clean beauty product. I'm always thinking of new ideas.
Yeah.
I've also, my friend and I want to start a podcast, which probably will happen in 2026.
Is your friend in a similar professional field? What would the dynamic be if you did that?
Yeah, she actually has like similar health conditions to me, but she also has a master's in integrative medicine and she's doing research in that field right now. We're both kind of busy, so we're trying to figure out when we can start.
I'm sure people will be excited for it when you do find time.
Yeah, definitely.
What changes would you most like to see in the world, in the food industry, and how we do things socially that would benefit our community?
Yeah, I think obviously more transparency with what is in food. I think that was like the most shocking thing to me is like I went my whole life being able to eat whatever I wanted, so I never really looked at food labels. I mean, into like college and beyond, I don't think I ever really looked at food labels. So then once I started having to, I went down this rabbit hole of like, what's in our food? Why Why are all these blanket labels, not really telling us what's in our food? Why, when you go to a restaurant, can they not tell you what's in the food? Why are they making your food, but they don't know what they're putting in it? So I think that was like the most shocking to me, is just, the lack of transparency of what's actually in the food we're eating. And I think obviously for health reasons and for allergy reasons, that is very important to know and to be able to have that information. We should have that information of what we're putting in our body. So yeah, I think transparency around that, it would be great if restaurants were able to like really share what they're putting in their food. I think just like more knowledge about allergies, which unfortunately more and more people are getting diagnosed with allergies. So like there's more and more awareness around it. It's kind of the same with the chronic illness piece and autoimmune issues. Everything's kind of on the rise.
Well, hopefully that's on the horizon. People like you who are raising the conversations and more awareness. So thank you for doing that and contributing to those important conversations. Hopefully in time we'll see some of that happen.
Yeah. Yes.
Could you tell everybody where they can follow you so they make sure they don't miss any of your recipes and your content?
Yeah, you can follow me at Less with Laur on Instagram, TikTok. I also have a Substack where I send out recipe ideas every week. And my website is lesswithlaur.com.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you so much for being here to talk. It's great to get to know you.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Here are 3 action steps for you to follow up on today's conversation. Number 1, follow Lauren at Less with Laur on your favorite platform for recipes, reflections, and inspiration that make healthy, mindful eating approachable. Number 2, on social media or on her website, find one recipe that you feel excited about, that you feel drawn to, that you feel motivated to try, and work it into your plan for the holidays. As she said, it doesn't have to be elaborate. It just has to be something that feels a little bit special or out of the ordinary. And number 3, share this episode with an allergy friend or anyone who is struggling to find joy in food or feels alone or isolated in managing their dietary or health needs. A simple conversation can really open space for connection and healing. I hope this episode helps you feel a little bit more inspired and joyful about your holiday preparations and celebrations. Thank you again for listening and spending your time with me. I truly appreciate your time, your ratings, your reviews, and your shares that are helping the show to continue growing. The content of this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional medical or mental health advice, diagnosis, or treatment. If you have any questions about your own medical experience or mental health needs, please consult a professional. I'm Dr. Amanda Whitehouse. Thanks for joining me. And until we chat again, remember, don't feed fear.